Welcome to Forgiving the Masculine, where we find all of the ways which we have to come back to remembering we are both feminine and masculine, and it takes both in order to have a happy, healthy home. We are unpacking all of the ways that the masculine and the feminine have been at odds against each other. That does not mean men versus women. That does not mean dads versus moms. That means both and. We have both. We are both. We need both in order to have family, community, life on earth. So today, what I would love to touch on and talk about in this season is this Capricorn Cancer axis that we see in astrology. I have been following astrology now about 15 years, and I am always curious about these archetypes and how they play out in our lives and in our reality. So, if you know about the wheel of the zodiac, there are opposites or polarized signs. So if you start with the first sign of Aries, the polarized sign is Libra. Aries is I, me, my. It is the impulse. It is the beginning of the zodiac. Libra is us, we, both, relation. It is about the balance, the scales. So as you can see, they are not different. They are complementary. We need me, myself, I, and we need us, we. Relationship, balance, duality. This is especially interesting when it comes to households and homes and families. When you look at the fourth sign in the zodiac, Cancer, and the 10th sign in the zodiac, Capricorn. Cancer, which is the sign that we're currently in, July, is the sign of the home. It is the sign of emotion, of mother. It is the sign of connecting with the parts of you that are deep down underneath everything else. So it can get a little watery, right? It can get very emotional. The complementary sign to Cancer is Capricorn. Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, Cancer being ruled by the moon. Saturn is the planet of limitations, of boundaries, of rules, of restrictions. Capricorn represents the father. Capricorn represents the limitations. Where is too far? How far can you go before you reach a boundary? And that boundary then sets a precedent for what is possible and what is not possible. When you look at this axis of Cancer Capricorn, this is called the axis of control. What we see in our homes when we are raising families is oftentimes we see these both axes of Cancer and Capricorn. A lot of it ends up being a role played by moms. And I know that there can be a lot of Cancer in men and a lot of this idea of emotions and feelings. And what women really in this day and age are talking a lot about and craving is a feeling of safety and security in their relationships. Especially when it comes to raising children, we want to be able to put the load down eventually, right? Like you see a lot of mother work or mom's work role in the house is continuous around the clock. We are making lists and plans and calendars in our brains, in our minds. And that's just not the reality for my husband. My husband doesn't have a running list of what we need to buy at the store in his head, which is not his forte. That's not where he excels. And this is why I think a lot of women end up feeling really burnt out in the role of the mother is that we don't get to put the work down and step away from the role of the holding the home. And in the idea of Cancer, this is like exalted, like the home is exalted because of these really watery and emotional and like caring qualities and attributes of the mother. And then when we come back to this idea of like the boundaries and the limitations and the Capricorn role, the father role, we wonder how much of that we're also taking on. We also end up taking on. Perhaps we've read the books, or we have the vision of how we want to parent, and perhaps that's not the main focus of their role in the home. Maybe they're contributing by working outside of the home, or perhaps they have like a fear of stepping in, like my husband does. He doesn't have that idea, a strong sense of self-locus, where he can set the idea of like limitations and boundaries. And dad just gets to come in and kind of be the fun one, right? He gets to come in and play the games and do the silly voices. And when it comes to mom, I don't feel that sense of like silliness and fun all the time. When my daughter wants to play, I can't really switch into play mode all the time because I'm carrying such a heavy load of the home and the parenting and the emotional labor and the physical labor and the yada, yada, yada. I mean, hand to your heart if this is landing, because we hold a lot as mothers. We hold a lot. I guess where I'm getting to with this is there is a need for it to merge. There's a need for us to hold both and especially what I've noticed living in Mexico and having a husband who is raised in a different culture. I was raised Anglo-Saxon American, a British mother, an American father, and my husband was raised in Tijuana by a Mexican mother and no father. A lot of grace for that situation and how that's shaped his worldview, because his experience and a lot of men's experiences is that they are raised to be good sons. They are raised to be obedient and respectful in most cases, in some cases, and to be served and to follow directions, follow rules, and not set rules. What I'm seeing and hearing is that women are ready for men, especially when they become husbands and fathers, is for them to transform into good husbands and good fathers. And there's this dynamic that happens once children are born that can look like the fathers then move into or default into son roles. And I noticed that in my relationship, especially once we got married and after having our daughter, my husband turned into my son, like another child in my home that was asking me questions and needing me to support his development and his role and his temper tantrums. And it was exhausting for me because I lost a partner and gained another dependent. And I've heard that this is a common phenomenon. This is a common phenomenon with a lot of women. And so, like, let's unpack that. What is going on there with our partners and husbands, fathers of our children? Instead of becoming fathers, they're becoming sons. Does that make sense? We can look at a lot of different socioeconomic, emotional, psychological reasons for this. And I'm not going to get into victim mentality or perpetrator mentality, which we've talked about in other episodes, which is just a losing cycle, right? There's the victim, there's the perpetrator, and then there's the savior. I don't want to be any of those roles. What I want ultimately to be, and what's going to give my daughter the best outcome in this lifetime, is to be compassionate, to be forgiving, and to be able to see that this is more to do with his capacity and his ability to hold than it has to do with my personal effort, esfuerza, with my personal role that I'm playing. Like, I'm playing my role, he's playing his role. And the best possible outcome for our family is that I can bring it up in effort to let it go and to move on from it and hopefully grow and merge as a stronger family. That doesn't mean that it's okay. And that doesn't mean that it didn't cause me a whole lot of headache to get here. And it's a daily practice. It's a daily practice of being able to point to ways in which I'm tired of extending the mother role to be his partner and to be our family lead. It's not that Cancer or Capricorn are stronger in the zodiac, just like Aries or Libra one is not better than the other. One does not need more attention or more care or more. It's a circle, right? The same idea of matriarchal society that a lot of women are pointing to. In a circle, there is no leader or stronger than or weaker than. In a circle, we all have weaknesses and we all have strengths, and we can lean more to one side and the other one can prop up, or lean more to the other side and the other one can prop up. But ultimately, if any one gets taken out, the whole circle then becomes obsolete, which is where we ultimately are headed. We are headed to circular, community-based organizing of society. This top-down pyramid style is no longer going to serve. It's just not. It is collapsing. And we are here, set front row, watching the collapse of this patriarchal, top-down, hierarchical society. We're here for it. In fact, some may even say, we chose this time to be born. Gosh dang it. I mean, it's complicated as all get out, but the caveat is but. How exciting is it to be able to witness this shift in consciousness, this turning point in humanity, and above and beyond our experience of what we've seen, what we've lived through, what we've experienced, what we've struggled with, what we've suffered for, we are setting a new precedent for our children. Oh my gosh, I just got chills all over my body. We have the science that shows that children raised in families where fathers are respectful to their mothers get sick 2.7 times less often. So they are healthier. They have better outcomes in every aspect of maturing, health, socializing, psychologically. Where our families can be stronger, our children grow up healthier. And where our relationships can be improved and like matured, because this is the mature version of ourselves. This is the adult version of ourselves, right? Being able to see where I'm not doing my best, and for him to be able to see where he can improve in order for us to then grow and evolve. You don't get into relationships so that you can be the same. Yeah, they bring out the worst. Sometimes our partners bring out the worst versions of ourselves. I know there's ways that I've spoken to him, that I've treated him, that I would never treat or speak to anybody else. Man, like, again, hand on your heart. If you've made mistakes and you're not proud of them, but that doesn't define who we are. And I always tell this to my daughter, that we are doing the best that we can. When she asks me, why did that kid throw that at me or hit me? I say, he's doing the best that he can, or she's doing the best that she can. They're good kids. We are good parents. We are good partners, and we're doing the best we can. And there is nothing more important than family. I will gospel that to the day I die. As somebody who has lost all of the people close to her in her life and moved to a place where I had to start over and create family from scratch, I will never take for granted the fact that I have a beautiful family. That is the most important thing, hands down, in my life, is my family and my friends who I consider family. I would do anything for them, including humble myself to the point of knowing where I've overextended, underextended, as well as learning new ways to communicate and find balance in this axis of control, right? Which means sometimes putting down the control. As a control, like self-proclaimed control freak, that's scary. Put down the control. Having those hard conversations is not something that we learned how to do in our younger years. And so that's what this is really all about. This is about learning new ways to go inside, to see the ways that we are overextending ourselves, and to find new ways to talk to each other, to navigate conflict, and to find a peaceful medium, to find that balance, that harmony, that in-between point where we can put the load down for a moment and trust that things aren't going to fall by the wayside, where we can bring up important topics without losing our cool or resorting to blame, victim mentality. This is the new chapter of humanity that we are stepping into. This is the new way of raising children that we are being asked to rise to. This is what is going to be necessary in order for our families and communities to stay strong through this next tumultuous chapter in Earth's history. And this is what we're here doing. We're forgiving the ways that we have been wronged. We're forgiving the masculine parts of ourselves that have taken on too much and pushed people away. And we are making and carving a way for both the feminine and the masculine to harmonize inside ourselves, inside our homes, inside our communities. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. My name is Joanna Sullivan. We're forgiving the masculine so we can bring harmony home. Thanks for being here. One love, y'all.